Hey, RJ Helms here, and we're back with the second episode of our Let's Play of OpenTTD. In the last episode, we built a small bootstrap system, so we had a couple of local bus routes, this one, and an airplane line connecting them between two airports. We'd left it there with the goal of saving up a bunch of money to start building some major infrastructure, and so I let the game run in the background for about 4 more years. And in that time I've added some more vehicles, beefed up some of the capacity, and also built this small little spur route here, which isn't doing much of anything, but might come in handy later. It was just something to do while I was waiting. And so I've saved up, you can see here, about 160 or 170,000 pounds, so that's plenty to actually get started. So the next thing to do is to choose where we want to build to. In the last episode I had talked about extending along the coast here from Niederstadt down to maybe Heiligenhausen here, but I wasn't terribly thrilled about that, just because if you look at what's connecting the two towns, there's really not much of anything. All these towns in between are pretty far apart, and none of them are very large, so I just didn't think that would be terribly profitable to begin with. Similarly down here near Miesleben, there is this town here, but that would be better serviced, I think, by a bus route. They're close enough together that I can just treat them as one big town for the sake of my transportation infrastructure. And down this way, there's a couple of towns that are pretty tempting, but none of them are really all that big. So what I was thinking instead is if I connected the air system to this town here, built a airport in Arborg, I could then build kind of a main backbone train line that just went all the way down this map, or at least start building it, and then expand from there, and then other cities like Heiligenhausen or these ones here could be connected to spur lines, and I could build the system organically from there. So in this episode we're going to get started with that. So the first thing to do, like I said, is to start with building the airport. So I'm going to build that, kind of try to tuck it in right here, so knock out some of those buildings. And I think at this point, a larger airport is available. Yes, that's true. And because this is going to be taking planes in both directions, and once it's built we're going to need more capacity, I am going to build this larger airport. Cash, of course, so I'm going to maximize my loan again. And the advantage of this size airport is, I believe, planes taxi a bit faster, but also it's got 3 gates rather than just 2. And so that will be able to handle a lot more traffic than these small airports here with just 2 gates. So hopefully it'll handle the additional capacity a bit better. I'm going to close in these loops here, just because I'm going to want one of them for bus stations in a bit. And then we move on, sorry, getting ahead of myself. Then we move on to adding it to the plane route. So I'm just going to go here and add it after each of the stations, because it's in the middle, so from NDS to here, to MLB, and then back to there. I'm also going to give it a name that's consistent with our naming scheme, so I like ABG. And then I want to get into the timetabling. In the timetable, I'm going to not do that. I'm going to clear the time for all the travel times, and I'm going to set this to autofill. And I'm just going to keep this one up and watch it until that timetable is full, because adding this new station is going to break all of our separation between the stations, just because the route will take more time. So I want to make sure our timetable is up to date. I also don't want this full load any cargo order here, which I added by accident, probably by control clicking. So there we go, this is perfect. You can see sometimes they're popping in as not timetabled. That's the time that other routes are taking, because that's an option that you do have rather than doing the autofill, just to let it run for some time without a timetable, and then see the amounts and add them. It works out functionally equivalent, I find. And I find this just a bit more convenient, because when the autofill is off and the times start filling in, that's when I know I can start tweaking my values. So from there, the next step is to start building our rail infrastructure. So I want to make sure I'm using electrified railroad, and I need to choose where my routes are going to go to. So obviously it's going to go from this station, from ABG, and I think this town here, Dossehafen, is kind of a perfect candidate. If it stopped on this side of the station, then that can just continue straight down to some of these other towns later on. So the first thing to do is to build my stations. Then I have to decide, make a big decision about what my rail network is going to look like. And that is what my platform length is going to be. Because the platform length determines the maximum length of trains that are going to be able to stop at the stations on my network. For example, if I choose a platform length of 3, that's fine for any train that is 3 tiles long or shorter, but if I want to have bigger trains in the future, it will be impractical. I have to start rebuilding my stations, because trains don't really handle being bigger than the station they're going into all that well. So I'm not really sure what size I'm going to go with. As we'll see a bit later, I think the first trains I'm going to build are going to be smaller, but I think I'm going to choose 5 as a compromise. I don't think I'm going to need to build any trains longer than 5 tiles long. This is down to a matter of preference. You can be quite successful with any size. There's trade-offs to larger and smaller trains, of course. But I've just found 5 trains works pretty well, and I'm going to go with that. Or 5 tiles works pretty well, and I'm going to go with that in this system. I'm going to do the same thing here. Build my station kind of tucked in around this, and finish that loop up. And again, give it a consistent name. So let's say DHF for this one. And then I need to just connect these 2 stations together. I am going to go for a system where, for now, I'm going to keep everything fairly straightforward. I don't want to over-engineer the system at this time. But I want to make sure that I do have trains going in both directions. I could go for a single-track system, but that's a lot more expensive to upgrade in the future. So I'm going to start with a double-track system right away for now. So I'm just going to flatten this out to give some just a bit of a flat area and run 2 tracks out. And I'm going to do a right-hand drive system, so this will be the track for trains going to the other station, and this will be the track for trains coming from the other station. And just extend these down. I'm not going to do too much landscaping. I am, however, going to destroy this bit of river. It's not ever going to be valuable to me. I could build a bridge over it or just go around it, but I think for $16,000 it's a good bit of investment to just have it gone. So I need to start pulling this in and thinking about how I'm going to connect to this. So because this is a terminal station, it's at the end of the line, I could just do the same thing here and have the tracks go right into it. But in this case, this isn't actually going to be a terminal station. It is right now, because there's nothing beyond it, but as I extend it, this is going to be just on a route. There's going to be track coming out that direction, but I don't think that's going to be the case at this side. So for that reason, I'm going to go for what's called a row-row station, or a roll-on, roll-off, and that means that trains are going to come in from one direction to every platform, and then leave in the opposite direction, or out the other side. I mean, these stations have a much higher throughput, but they're not appropriate for every case. They take up, as you can see here, quite a bit more space, and so you don't always want to use it, but in this case I am going to build one. You can see on some tutorials, or the OpenTTD wiki, there's lots of good station designs. But this is basically how they look in general. And I want to clear some of this out to start connecting these up. I put this little jog in here just to make sure that this this turn is 3 tiles long. Once you get into certain sizes of turns, trains will have to slow down. Tightness of turns, this is, I find, kind of a minimum for trains that are 5 tiles long, is 3 tiles, because that way you ensure that a train is never doing more than a 90-degree turn. For example, if this was tighter, I could have a train that's head was here and its tail was there, so the train was actually turned 180 degrees, and that would slow it right down. It will still see a slowdown on these 90-degree turns that are this tight, but it won't be so major. The best way to be sure is to actually have your radius of turns that be actually longer than your maximum train. So if these were 5 tiles long, I wouldn't expect to see any slowdown. I'm not too worried about that right here, because in this case, this is around a station, so I don't expect trains to be going at their full speed anyways. So I think these 3 tiles turns work. And I'll just connect that all up, and then I've got the this station fully built. I'll need to add some places for tracks to cross here. I'll just put an X. This isn't the best practice, but it'll be fine for now. And just that way, coming in, both platforms are available to a train, and then from both platforms can get back on this. Once again, because at this point, trains are going to be turning around in this station, well, that won't be what they do eventually. So I'm going to start signaling it, and the first thing I'm going to do is signal this station. So I'm going to use these one-way path signals, and that way, this means that it's, don't want to click too many times, a train coming in here will wait at this signal until a platform is available, and then it will reserve the track all the way to the next signal. So I'll put these 2 here, and then, so when a train comes in, it will see which platform is free, and it will go into that platform and reserve the whole platform. And then another train coming in will see if that platform is reserved, will then take this one, and they'll alternate under heavy load and that can be very handy. It's a bit easier than trying to use pre-signals or block signals to achieve this. And the same thing here, I'm going to have path signals out to the other side of this switch, and that way trains will alternate which way they come out of this platform. So if one is leaving, the next train won't be able to reserve track until this one is clear of this signal and on the main network. And so for the main network, I'm just going to use block signals. If you hold down click or control and click and drag once you've had a signal built, it will extend that type of signal all the way down to the next junction or signal, as you can see down here. I'm going to do the same thing down here. Now the main part of my track is all fully signaled. I'm down here. I'm going to do a similar thing with path signals, but because this has to take traffic from both directions, I'm going to use the two-way path signals. Now, two-way path signals aren't really truly two-way signals in the same way that, say, the two-way block signals like this are. They do allow traffic from both directions, but from a train coming from this way, this actually won't be exposed as a signal at all. It won't stop traffic. So I should come to think of it, I do want this to be a one-way path signal as well, so I'm going to convert that. And that way, a train coming here will reserve one of these stations, but these will serve as path signals from this side, so a train won't leave this station until the path, at least through this block signal, is free. So repay my loan while I'm talking here. So now I'm fully signaled. The only thing left to do is build a depot and get a train on this network. So build a depot. The depot position doesn't really matter in this case. Because I have vehicles breakdowns disabled and maintenance disabled accordingly, there is not going to be any situation where vehicles are going to be entering a depot except for when they're first created or when at the end of their life they go on to be replaced or just removed. And so for that reason, it really doesn't matter. I'll just kind of add depots as I need them. If I was playing a game where I did have breakdowns disabled and thus was using maintenance, it would be a lot more critical because I'd expect depots or trains to be entering depots as part of their routine travel. I would be on their schedule most likely, and so I'd want somewhere where they could be non-obstructive. One thing you can do is just have another loop here and have make this split into two tracks, and have the outer track be the one with the depot, so trains pulling into the depot don't stop and slow down trains that are not going into the depot. So I can get this a train built now, so the next step is to choose what type of train to build. So for my locomotive, I think my highest priority is going to be maximum speed, but I don't want to just go for the fastest train, because you can see here some of these fast trains that cost 30,000 pounds, 16,000 pounds, and that can be very expensive. I don't know for this route as it exists right now I'm going to really see enough return for that to be worth the extra speed I get. So I already know that one I'm going to choose is the Bud RDC here. It has a maximum speed of 136 kilometers an hour, which isn't great, but it's pretty good, but costs only about 8,500 pounds a year to run, so that savings is worth it. The catch with this, of course, is its power is very, very low, and so it'll have a hard time pulling long trains. For that reason, I'm not going to put a long train on it, even though I've built my system able to handle 5 car lengths, or 5 tile length trains. I'm only going to build this one to 3 tiles for now. I need to max out my loan again. Build it to 3 tiles. As you can see here, it is 3 tiles long. And I can give this its orders, which is to just between these 2 stations for now. Set its timetable to autofill, and get it started. I'll of course need to create a group for it. So this group is going to be ABG to DHF, once again just between the 2 endpoints named in alphabetical order. And I can just let that run. I did close this, so I'm not certain how this is going. Let's see if this is fully timetabled. It isn't yet. It's actually only about halfway timetabled, so I'm just going to leave this up again. I shouldn't have closed it. And we'll let that run for a while. So these 2 I'm just both going to let go. You can see here this is already showing as well over capacity. One thing to note is that when I did change the route, it took a while to update, but the original route going between these 2 stations directly no longer shows in the cargo flow legend. The game noticed that that wasn't being used and replaced it with this route and slowly redid all the calculations. What that means is there's no longer any passengers in the system that expect to be able to start from this station and go straight to that one. Because when a passenger is generated or any other cargo with the cargo distribution enabled, when it's spawned, it is spawned with a starting point, obviously the station it appears at, its ultimate destination, and the route it intends to take. So for example, a vehicle, or a passenger that spawned at MLBC that wanted to get to KCR would spawn with the route of through here, down, past this station, to NDS, and then onto a bus over there. And that is what's used to update this cargo flow legend. So the next thing to do, now that I've got this, I want to do the same thing I've done in the other towns to support the the airline that I've built is to start building some local service infrastructure, local bus service infrastructure. So I do expect my local authority rating is poor. Yes, I can see it's atrocious here. So this town's not going to let me build a bus station just for the asking. That's because of all the destruction. I tore down a couple houses, I did a lot of terraforming here, all things that local authorities don't like. Local authorities don't like destruction, they certainly don't like deforestation, and they don't like landscaping. They also don't like low station ratings and infrequent vehicle service. Conversely, what they do like is high station ratings, they like frequent service, and they like trees. So the easiest way to boost your rating, especially in a case where there's lots of open space like around this one, is just to spam trees. Lay them on pretty thick. As long as they are in the range of that local authority... Oh, I closed that one, I didn't mean to. So I'll bring this back. And pin it this time. As long as they're in the range of that local authority, they will boost the rating, and I can see here my rating is now good. And so good is good enough. You need mediocre or better to build stations. So I'm going to be able to build this. Oh, wrong type of station. Build that. I did not mean to build this one, so I'm just going to tear that down. There we go, that's better. And then build another one over here. This will eventually disappear, since there's no station that exists there anymore. I'm also going to clean up this little spur of road. And let's name this one. It already gave it central, so we'll name it ABGC. Let's get some service going here. So I'll build a bus. And you know the drill by now. It's choose for local service, the highest capacity passenger vehicle, which is still this double-decker bus. Go between the two stations. So the time to be able to autofill. Pin these. Get it started. And create my local ABG group. Now this is done, so I'm going to put my slack into this. 5 days. You see here this train is having a hard time climbing that hill. That's why I thought the power was a concern. It's not going to be too much of a problem, but it is certainly a consideration. So I'll add some slack to that, and I can get this out of the way. I'm going to do the same thing down in Dozehofen. I'm certain that the local authority rating is going to be bad as well. It's not quite as poor, but it is still poor, so we'll need the same trick. Which is spam trees, spam trees, spam trees. And now my local authority rating is good, so once again I can do the exact same thing. Build 1 and 2 to cover the whole town. Rename this DHFC, and by now this should be second nature. You build a depot, buy a bus, add a route connecting the two, set the timetable to autofill, start the bus, pin these up, and create the group, which is local DHF. I'm getting a lot of local groups, so I'm just going to make a parent local station, and you can see here you can actually nest routes, so now these are all under local. Just that way I can see that there are all these buses, I can see them at a glance. Just if I wanted to say sort by profit last year to see perhaps which vehicles, which local routes aren't profiting. I don't do that right now, but it's a bit of a handy time saver. So now I've got this timetable ready, so let's add some slack to that, as we're used to. Do the same thing here, it's also ready. And now this route's complete as well, so I'm going to add a bunch of slack to this one. I'm going to end the episode here. We're at about 20 minutes, so that's perfect. So because I'm just going to have a lot of traffic, that's what I'm certain, I'm going to add a 5-day slack to each of these, just in case the stations start to get bogged down. I may need to upgrade stations later. And the last thing I'm going to want to do is find the next station or next plane that's landing here and use it for the auto spacing. So I'm going to set it to land in a month's time, and that should be perfect. That should space the rest of them. So I think that's about it for this episode. In the next episode, we're going to want to watch to see what the capacity of this ends up being. It looks like we're going to need some more planes on this network and a couple other vehicles, but we'll just do some maintenance around the network as it exists now, and then keep on expanding it. And that's basically the cycle that we're going to be in for the rest of the game. It's going to be expand a bit, look, let it run for a while and let everything adjust, take a look at what needs some attention. For these things, I mean, for buses, it's going to be just a case of more buses. For airplanes, I might need to upgrade these 2 stations. But for rail, you know, if this system bogs down at any point, I expect the trouble point's going to be right here. Stations or trains are going to back up, try and enter this station. And so at that point, you have to kind of take a step back and realize the problem isn't necessarily just a lack of trains or a lack of platforms, and start thinking a bit more intelligently about how you can rebuild things. And for that reason, I find it a bit easier to see where the trouble spots develop, rather than kind of trying to over-engineer a solution from the very beginning. And there's certainly a lot more of ways I could have built this station better. I know for now it's already not going to be good enough, but this let me build it for a very small amount of money just off the hop, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. Just going to make sure I repay my loan, and I'm going to end things here. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this second episode. If you did, if you had any feedback or any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Please like and subscribe this video, and we will be back for the next episode soon. I'll see you then, so thank you. Until next time.